Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and hey, look who's back. It's my good buddy, my friend, my colleague, my pal. Well, it's really only been like a week or so. We're back for the whole post-game thing. And one Mr. Brian E. Roach. Brian, I always say these things. I always give shout-outs to my homies here because sometimes when I'm by myself, I really do. I feel by myself. So I know all the listeners and the viewers out there enjoy seeing you here too. So welcome back, even though it was a short hiatus.
No, I miss being on the show when I'm not.
I know you do.
So
it breaks your heart. I miss it too. I mean, some of these one a week. We're used to doing at least two a week, and I mean this was a pretty brutal and killer off season. You know what else is brutal and killer? I mean, I could probably go without preseason football. I mean, I forgot it didn't exist last year, and it's like now I had to watch. I bet you did too. You got the Eagles feed, right?
Oh, I did, and I got to listen to the absolute worst announcing crew that has ever called a game. They were bad.
I think it was it Scott Graham? I'm trying to think who the play-by-play was, but Ross Tucker.
Yeah.
Ross Tucker was the color guy. I like Ross Tucker, but poor Ross Tucker, I think he's overextended. I don't know. It just didn't seem like.
Well, that guy couldn't decide whether he liked Dwayne Haskins or didn't like Dwayne Haskins. Oh, yeah, that's the best part. Dwayne Haskins really good at. He's really bad at that. He's really, it's just like, I don't know. He was all over the place. I felt like I understand. I think they're clearly the Eagles team, right? They're the Eagles team announcers for this event, and it just they didn't know what the hell.
Well, they're kind of a batch of them because I don't think they're normally doing TV projects, right. And that's the same thing. What was it? Bob Pompiani and Charlie Batch, I think, got the Steelers branded version for anyone who was watching the local Pittsburgh. But I got the NFL Network feed, which was Philadelphia. And we dealt with this. I had forgotten about it. We dealt with this like a couple of years ago. And it's funny you mentioned like bad. The only thing that's really bad about it is you get to certain segments of the game. They're interviewing maybe some of the Hall of Famers or some of the players, like Jason Kelsey, for example, veteran player over on the sideline. And you don't see either a replay or the play at all. You have no idea what the heck just happened. And that starts to drive me a little crazy. Not that, again, it's preseason. Most of this doesn't matter. And this is kind of like, I think my biggest thing here is I think we just need to jump right into it. And I'm curious because we haven't discussed this, you and I, at all. Not even backrooms or anything like this. We're just going right into this. There's a lot of people who think there's a quarterback competition going on in Pittsburgh, but I just don't think that they know which competition it actually is. I don't think it's actually for Ben Roethlisberger's backup. It's for that number 3 spot, and then you're kind of off the roster unless I've speculated maybe Josh Dobbs kind of sticks in. But people would forget Josh Dobbs wasn't even on this roster. He's outside. He's on a second contract. It's kind of amazing that they would bring somebody back like that in that situation. Usually they don't. I have a feeling it's because they're going to keep the expanded practice squad rules from last year. They did, since the last episode I mentioned this, and I was right, they hadn't approved it yet, but now the injured reserve rules are back in place after the whole 3-week thing, which is, I think that's great. It changes a lot of things in the NFL. I was thinking about this actually during Bill Cowher's speech. He kept Rod Woodson that whole time. It made no noise. He's trying to open his can there, and usually it's like, pss, pss.
It made noise for me.
But here, let me explain myself here. I think a lot of people come in. I think there's a lot of unwarranted. I hope this isn't a broken record for the other preseason games, but it probably will be. I think people come into these games and are like, Mason Rudolph is absolutely garbage. He's got to go. I hope he's the one they're trading for Joe Schobert, which, by the way, I really like that trade. It's going to cost. I want to see. I haven't seen any official anything yet. It's just there was speculation. I think Schobert said it. There's no financial terms. There's no picks. We don't know anything yet, any of the details. But I like it. I think I'll come back to that in 1 second because I got some talk here with some defense and that. But, I mean, what else are you going to ask of Rudolph when this whole, first 2-3 series? He goes 8-9, 77, 102, 3 is his quarterback rating. What else are you going to ask of this guy when the offensive line, which I will argue here as well with Haskins, I think he had some of the better performers in with him, even though it might technically be some of the second team. I think some of these guys have the starter potential over Rashawn Coward and Joe Haig. Kendrick Green got blew up there on the one sack that wasn't even like a Mason Rudolph thing, but there was like a penalty or something else that really kind of dug the hole that they couldn't dig out of, and that's the reason why he didn't lead any scoring drives versus Haskins, and I'll leave it at that for you to kind of opine on this quarterback, I guess, situation, even though I don't really think there is one. I think Rudolph and Haskins both, it's kind of like 2A, 2B. They're going to be the backups for this year, and then we'll see what Ben does in 2022.
Yeah, I don't think that there's much of a controversy. I mean, if Dwayne Haskins absolutely blew the roof off and was, pristine in every throw and just let's put it this way. If he looked the way that Josh Dobbs looked in that preseason where he beat out Landry Jones, right? If he looked that good, that crisp, then maybe you'd have an argument. But Mason is Mason. Mason's going to be fine. Mason's the guy that they paid to come in and be the backup. I think that they like the potential that Dwayne Haskins has. I think they see something in him that maybe they can try and groom, but I don't think they're anticipating it anything beyond that. To think that he's going to just that there's a really big controversy, I don't think that there is. But they're certainly giving him enough playing time to let him play his way into a controversy if he can, right? If he can. What do we got? We got 2 more preseason games left. Ben apparently will be playing next time against the Lions. Is that right? Yeah, it's the Lions.
Yeah, Lions, a home game too.
Yeah.
And a victory today. I forgot to mention, the Steelers, whatever. People are looking at like
preseason.
People are looking at the wrong stuff in these games. I mean, here we go. Pat Freiermuth had an offensive holding. The Steelers are already down 3-0. Any worries on the defense? I thought maybe Cam Sutton got beat on one, but then that Quez Watkins just turned on the burners with Trey Norwood too. It's like you have Trey Norwood out there who might not even make the team. Right. I think he will, but he's at the very bottom of the roster, 7th-round pick rookie, playing next to Terrell Edmonds, who's a former first-round pick, 4th-year pro. There was a lot of mixed bag stuff here. It's hard to really evaluate the D, but down 3-0. Okay. Finally got to see Devin Bush on the field, which is
Melvin Ingram.
Yes, Melvin Ingram. I got to see him at camp last week, and then wearing number 8, it's still throwing me off, man. I don't know. It's nothing sacred.
Well, Zach Adonia loves it. So
yeah. Well, nothing like having 2 guys wearing 30 also. After
I know.
James Conner.
I kept going, wait, did James Conner come back? Who's that guy?
James Conner with an interception? Wait, what's going on here?
What the heck's going on here?
By the way, if I don't end up coming back to that interception, Lafayette Pitts, there was someone in one of these groups that was really talking him up, and I was looking him up, and I was like, I'm gonna keep an eye on that guy. And lo and behold, he shows up. This was before the game, and then he shows up in that game. I'm like, keep an eye on that guy. Mason was moving the ball. They got out to the Philadelphia. They got to the 41. Freiermuth had the holding penalty. You go to 1st and 20, a little short dump off for 5 yards. But, he's looking downfield. He's getting some 13 yards. And this is not – look, I'm not trying to pump Mason up here and bring Haskins down, but there's some people who forgot some of the things that Haskins did in this game. And then at the same time, they forgot the things that went on that kind of handcuffed Rudolph here. And that's one of the plays that did so. Let's see. The only incompletion he had was this ball he tries to pop to Najee Harris. I don't know where else he was kind of going. with this, but I did see a lot of promise. We got to see a lot of the backs get some work, particularly even in the passing game. I think Jalen Samuels just made a pretty strong argument for me. I have him maybe on the cusp, but again, it's who's there, who's available. Benny Snell's hurt.
We saw a different Jalen Samuels.
Jalen
Samuels made a case for me to scoot his ass right out the door.
You think so? You think so? I
thought he was awful. I mean,
really?
He had some decent catches, but that's what he should be. First of all, he's
yes.
playing against the third-string guys. This is a guy who's had starting experience, and he's playing third-string guys. He should be juking. And he was like, I don't know. There's just a couple plays where it was like, what the hell are you doing? It just looked lost at times. I don't know. I was not impressed. To me, that should have been a showcase time for Jalen Samuels because he's supposed to be a tier above. But it didn't look that way to me.
10 carries, 45 yards, not good enough for you, man. 4.5 a carry, led the team. I mean, I'm just saying, Tony Brooks James had 9 for 51, but Tony Brooks James by this time is really playing like, and I say this in the most polite way possible, the grocery baggers of the future here.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Future insurance salesmen and high school coach or peewee coaches maybe.
And to be fair, remember, Samuels has Dotson and Moore out there really being the run game bullies that they were because they played pretty darn well.
Yeah, and that's
in that instance.
That's where I'm getting at with I'm not trying to boost up necessarily Rudolph. I'm thinking I really feel Rudolph and Haskins. God, I wish I had the quote here from the professor. He had it, these guys each have, and Dobbs, they each have their own traits, but I think Dobbs is maybe more off field, and he should have a lot of command, and he should look really good for the same reasons you just said about Samuels. He's been around. This is going to be his 5th season here. He's even been with another system entirely. He should be able, but it just seems like he can't read any type of defense. With Rudolph, I don't know that he was necessarily holding on to the ball too long, but I don't think he was getting a whole lot of help along this offensive line. Hold on, let me see who else was in here besides. I know Kendrick Green was out there. Coward. Okorafor, Trey Turner. Oh man, we're gonna get that holding penalty somewhere in here as I keep scrolling. And then Joe Haig was playing right tackle. And I kind of like Joe Haig, but I think he's more of a backup swing guy. There was no Zach Banner in this game. So first quarter, okay, so this ends. I don't think we got to see your I wanted to see more of Presley Harvin and give the fans what they want.
I was very sad. I really didn't see Big Fat Punter the whole game. I mean, he may have kicked. I missed the first couple series because it was my wife's 50th birthday celebration last night. So I was not. I wasn't
even home when the game started. I got to see all this. There's no excuses here.
Yeah, there is. You watched it this morning, you cheater.
No, well, I did later at night. So hey, I got a bucket list item out of the way. What can I say?
I know.
Yeah. Well, Ben didn't play. James Washington didn't play. Ray McLeod, Joe Hayden scratches. As we mentioned, Snell, Antoine Brooks, Kalen Ballage, Minka Fitzpatrick, Zach Banner, T.J. Watt, Stephon Tuitt, Tyson Alulu, and Cam Hayward. So all three along the front starting defensive line there for the Steelers. Let's see. Jordan Berry punts, 40 yards. It gets down at the 2. I think he's making the case to be trade bait. Maybe he's the guy that goes to Jacksonville. Who knows? We're assuming there's a player thing, too. People are just pulling things out of the air here, you know what I mean? The defense does okay here. Steelers get the ball back. And I'll tell you what, Najee Harris, it doesn't matter who's in there for the line. So if the line's better and he gets some of these road graders like you had mentioned, and we're going to talk about a little more, he creates out of nothing. No matter how he touches the ball, he creates. He's also been pretty darn smart when it comes to pass protection, too, so far from what I've seen.
So far, yeah.
Yeah, but Trey Turner gets tagged with this complete BS hold. 2nd and 15. Rudolph finds Deontay Johnson 33 yards. Pretty nice there. Then another one of these little jet sweep things. We try to do this again this week. Let's see if we can get it right. Chase Claypool loses 2 yards. They don't end up getting anything. This drive kind of stalls after all that. Punt away. Jordan Berry pins him again. Now it's down at the 7. And then you get Joe Flacco comes in, elite Joe Flacco, who throws for like a negative behind the line type pass to Quez Watkins, and then Quez Watkins takes it the other way for 79 yards and a touchdown. And that dude was fast. Ross Tucker was just mentioning his acceleration like a couple of plays earlier also, and I was like, yeah, I noticed that. Then all of a sudden I was like, oh man, this is just, and I don't know who may have blown an assignment or whatever there, but again, this is like, I don't know.
It's ugly. It's ugly.
It is. Richard Rodgers had a catch there. Robert Spillane in pass coverage has not been the most promising thing to see, and I've been giving it a pass because with Vince Williams, it was the same exact thing, and Vince Williams was a guy you wouldn't count on being on the field often. A lot of different sub-package type deals, send him on a blitz, send him in like a run situation, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So this is the reason Schobert, as we hear the rumors, speculative coming, I like it. A lot of people are going to be like, well, with the Browns, blah, blah, blah. This is another guy with Cleveland where I was like, why did they get rid of this guy? Especially with the woes. I don't know. I still don't get it. I know he signed a very healthy contract with Jacksonville, but I still don't get it. And I believe last season even, he was still one of the PFF metrics the Wizards come up with. He's one of the top pass coverage inside linebacker. So you put a guy out there. There are people in Cleveland that are like, oh, no, well, he sucked. Immediately he sucks because he's going to the Steelers now. And right. I always thought himself, and I'm trying to think of the other linebacker they had, and they got rid of both of them at the same time, and Jamie Collins, too, when he was there. And I'm like, why are they getting rid of these guys? They're trying to build their defense. Money really wasn't an issue to them. I just think he didn't want to come back to Cleveland, and understandably so. Anytime he was exposed there and somebody says, well, he sucked, it's because the Browns sucked. I mean, let's face it. So
I'm going to reserve judgment. And the reason I say that, I watched him a little, right? Obviously, we watched him whenever he played the Steelers. I didn't really pay much attention to him last year in Jacksonville. No. Why would I? Who cares?
Agreed.
But my concern is speed, and that is one of the reasons that I think that they let him leave. Is that he's not all that fast, but because as you said, he gets ranked as one of the better coverage linebackers. That doesn't mesh in my head. So you can't be like slow-mo and be able to cover guys. It just doesn't work. So I'm going to kind of reserve judgment and be optimistic because, I'm the optimistic one.
Yeah,
and say maybe it'll be all right. But let's actually, let's let the trade play out. If it was overly expensive, I'll be unhappy. But I can't imagine that it was. I feel like this is a salary dump from Jacksonville. But, who knows?
I agree. I'm trying to find his details. I was looking at the rest of this, the depth chart here, and you never know how accurate some of these things are, or accurate some of these things are with the different sites that you go on. And then, of course, even the Steelers. I mean, somebody looks it up and they see JCH Hassenauer there as the starting center. But Miles Jack, they did draft Shaq Quarterman last season. They brought in Dylan Moses, I don't believe was drafted. So they got a number of players. They got a number of bodies, but I can't say exactly where Jacksonville's going with that. Let's see. Joe Schobert, show me the money. Signed his contract last free agency period for 5 years, $53.75 million, $21 million in guarantees and a $12 million bonus, and the 2020 and 2021 salaries guaranteed, fully guaranteed, and then he's got a per game roster bonus worth up to $300,000 each in each year of the contract, which that's not too. It's not something I think the Steelers typically do, but that's not too uncommon. If I had to guess here, Brian, you got 21 and you got 12 here. You got about $33 million in various guarantees, and it looks like quite a bit of that is already the guaranteed salary is paid out. So he has like zero guarantees past this upcoming season. The cap number is 11-6, 13-1, and 13-6. However, based on the way those bonuses and things are prorated that were already paid out, it's very highly likely that Jacksonville has to carry the tab on that end of it. So they're the ones that have paid that money. They're the ones that have guaranteed and processed that money already. You see this happen with a bunch of different trades. You'll have a team that, somebody goes somewhere else. The one that pops in my mind, and I don't know why, is Mike Wallace. The Dolphins were still paying him a ton of money when they shipped him over to Minnesota. And Minnesota got him for a song. So about half of what he was paid that year was in all of these guarantees. So we'll see how much of this the Steelers end up on the hook for. But the running, let me see. The totals for the base salaries, we're talking 7, 8, 10, 10. I mean, a little more than what Vince was, but we're not talking any type of astronomical figures here, I don't think, especially if the cap keeps going up. Still tackling.
In addition to that, they're not on the hook for any of those. If he's terrible this year, they're not. On the hook for the rest
there's
of that
nothing
contract.
they don't owe him anything. They don't guarantee him anything. They could draft someone. They could sign someone else. Can't be any worse than some of the John Bostics and other players, Mark Barons or anybody else that's been out there. So can't complain. Back to preseason football. We had the big Joe Flacco play. We now go into the second quarter. And I got on this track all because Robert Spillane was beat there, but I think it happened more than once too. Let's see. I love the holding calls that happened in this game on the Steelers. It was like, oh, now we're going to call holding this season. On that big play, I know, here we go again, right? I swear to you that Cam Sutton had his arm like pinned back behind him trying to spin and turn right as he come off the edge. And it's like, well, hear no evil, see no evil, the Homer thing going. It's preseason for the referees too. Or no, it's not. They're in fine form.
Yeah, they're in full season suckedness.
Let me see. Mason Rudolph, he gets this first series in the second quarter, and this is where it ends. Anthony McFarland comes in 4 yards. Then Chooks gets a false start and shoots them in the foot from you go from 3rd and 2 to 3rd and 7, and then everybody folds like a deck of cards here, like a bad poker hand. I can't blame anyone. Kendrick Green got pushed off. I think Chooks got it on the one edge. They just got kind of manhandled at the point of attack, and Mason had no time to dump off or do anything there. And that sucks. It's unfortunate. You want to see a little more out of him. At the same time, the Eagles kind of moved the ball around a little bit here. They had a holding penalty, and then the Steelers actually hold here and keep them from. It looked like Kenneth Gainwell was doing pretty well. It's somebody we scouted in the pre-draft process. He picks up a lot of the chunks of these yards. But again, what is it? Jawan Jones and some players like this. It's like when you see guys wearing numbers of other players that you like 92, 30, 44, 50. They've reissued 50, Brian.
I saw.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that was pretty surprising too. Dwayne Haskins first series. So now we got Jalen Samuels, Dwayne Haskins. This one was a 3 and out. You got 2 yards from Samuels. You got a short pass to Isaiah McCoy, who didn't impress me in this game. Cody White might have, but I don't know that Cody White is on the radar. Rico Bussey he continues, I think his stock continues to climb. Is he a guy that becomes wide receiver 6 or even wide receiver 5? We haven't seen McLeod doing anything yet. Will he be ready to go for week 1? So we'll see what ends up happening with some of this. But Haskins in here didn't really get anything moving. The offensive line that was in at this point, he had JCH, who has played for a minute, has had some starting experience at center. He had flanking him to each side, B.J. Finney and Kevin Dotson. Both have been starters, and one is penciled in as one. And you have Dan Moore, who's making a hell of a case at left tackle. This is when some things start to work and click for the Steelers. Again, they're playing. The Eagles only had some of their first team defense in for that first series. Even the second team starting to come off the field now, so we take that into consideration. But this is why the things start to really move, because the few of the names that I've just mentioned, Finney could be starting at some point. I hope JCH isn't, but we've been talking about Dan Moore, and obviously Kevin Dotson's been a hot-button topic of conversation. So when the Steelers get this ball back after a nice short defensive, I guess, I hate saying defensive stand. Some of this is just because the other team isn't playing very well either because it's preseason football. But now Haskins starts to move the ball around a little bit, but we also got like we got a couple scares here. He threw a ball right in the middle of the field that bounced off an Eagles defender's chest, could have been picked, maybe should have been picked, ran a play in the wrong direction. Again, it's not the poo-poo Haskins. We're both Ohio State guys. I think he was a first-round player. You see the talent sometimes. He finds Bussey on a play. I don't think it was this one, but he had a nice one downfield. He finds guys like Cody White. When he's on, he's on. It's a laser beam of a throw. And then some of these throws, I don't want to see him on the run and throwing a football. It looks pretty ugly, and it did at different times. So, but this drive they'll end up scoring, but a lot of it is behind the run game too, or as McTomlin's been calling them, check down. But hey, they got a nice little drive in here. 9 plays, 70 yards. They still had there was just the one penalty, but that wasn't them. This was capped off by Anthony McFarland at the tail end here. So Haskins did some good stuff here. Cody White, 18 yards, et cetera, et cetera. Steelers finally get on the board. Everybody's very excited because, hey, Haskins led this whole thing. But let's not forget some of the other things that still need to be worked on here too.
Yeah, it's as we continue to say, it's preseason football. It just is what it is. You can get overly excited about guys who are playing against, that are excelling against a very low tier of player NFL wise, right? Because all these guys, whether they're destined for the grocery counter or not, are elite athletes in the sense that they made it this far. So I'm not discounting their abilities, but there's definitely a difference between playing against varsity and JV and then the second team JV, right? So, it's nice to see some guys excel. It's nice to see some guys get their opportunities, try and make an impression. I think we've said this from the get-go. I don't know how a wide receiver makes this team other than the ones that you know about, right? Yeah. I just don't see it. The room's too full. Yeah, they might be able to stick on the practice squad. They might be able to make themselves noticed for another team that is starved for depth at wide receiver. So those are all possibilities. But, man, that's a hard nut to crack. The running back room seems to be in flux behind Najee Harris. I don't know that anybody, Benny Snell, the rest of the way down. Anthony McFarland looked pretty decent, but again, looked decent with starting level, offensive line guys and not starting level defensive line guys out there for the Eagles. But, he showed some development and some growth. So he might, he's probably going to stick around. But, the rest of that room is kind of in flux. Other than that, this is a pretty well-rounded team. So it's tough for guys, other than the ones are probably going to come in, Kendrick Green, Dan Moore, some of the draft picks, Haig, because he was a free agent signing and things of that nature. It's hard for these guys to make the squad. Really to fill into a spot on the 53. I mean, I know we haven't really talked about it, but where are the holes? Where are the holes for them to fit? Where are the empty spots where you're like, well, yeah, that guy's he's a veteran who's been around, but he's probably going to slide out and maybe he isn't going to make the team anymore. Mm-hmm. Or even a second or third year guy who you're like, yeah, he hasn't been cutting it, but I don't know. So they're really performing for their practice squad lives in some cases. But the receivers you mentioned, I watched and I'm like, all right, yeah, some nice catches made there.
Anthony Johnson totally wide open on a busted coverage, and that's the touchdown pass that Haskins got.
If you drop that, you're doomed. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Or you throw it out of bounds or something, you overthrow it, you're doomed too. I mean, exactly. That was a shaky, and I get it because when it's a busted play, it almost looked like, okay, we're going off the script. Uh-oh, we're off script. Almost like to me, there, a lot of people talk about Rudolph and having like deer in headlights, nerves.
Yeah.
I see that. I see some hesitation, sure. There, I saw it from Haskins. Like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? Is this NFL open? No, this is like high school open.
But I mean, they all like. Remember last week I said the best quarterback on the field was Josh Dobbs because that's how he looked in most cases. That was not the case yesterday. Not at all. Josh Dobbs did not look anywhere near as good as he looked the previous week. Made some really bad throws, and just was not crisp. Haskins had his moments where he made, one of the throws that he made, really nice throw, deep down on I guess the left side of the field, across the field, showed his arm strength, really great throw. But then the converse of that is the screwed up play where he goes the wrong way on trying to feed a running back, and it is a busted play. It's totally on him. Second one, I mean, he's lucky he didn't get an interception because he really threw it right to the guy on the other team, not our guy. But it didn't work out that way. So he had his moments of good, he had his moments of bad. Overall, even though I think Haskins has a higher rating for that game, this is an example where Mason Rudolph was probably the best quarterback of the ones that we saw on the field for that game. And it takes something from me to say that.
Well, and some of that, and it's crazy because he has the 22-yard touchdown pass. I think it's just a couple of plays after the busted. Yeah, it's weird because he's the one in the huddle calling the play. So he calls it one way or the other. Maybe everybody else got the terminology right, and then in his head he had it flipped or so. He did the flip play on Madden, and then nobody else got the memo. But nobody
else got that toggle button or whatever.
I don't want to see him channel like Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, like he was like on the 1 foot hop, and I don't know where that ball went on that too. That was like just, and again, I'm telling you, these things we're nitpicking, and I'm nitpicking them just because of the consensus narrative of some of the Steelers fans that are watching these games out there. Everybody, there's like one end of the spectrum where they think, oh, all the quarterbacks suck, including Ben. Everybody but Ben, we're in deep trouble. And then I'm here thinking these are two serviceable backup quarterbacks that are better than, half of the league's backup quarterbacks. I'm completely cool with either one of these guys at this point. Does that mean they're going to take you to the Super Bowl? I'm not saying all that. We're not putting a gold jacket on Rudolph or Haskins right now.
No.
Haskins had that one that was just a rope, and I think that was McCoy or White that got their mitts on it, but it was almost like one of these passes that's thrown so hard you could see somebody break their fingers and drop it. Uncle Rico, Bussy, nice game. He gets open, and Haskins finding him, and like we said, open in the NFL is like that, man. It's like a split second to find some of these plays aside from the touchdown pass. Not trying to be all doom and gloom. Justin Lane ends up getting Nick Mullins comes in. Justin Lane picks him off almost immediately. You want to talk about what backup quarterbacks look like, or in this case, he's QB3. So he doesn't have a Super Bowl MVP like Flacco sitting there, but Mullins just totally gives it up. I mean, he threw it straight at Lane. Shame on Lane if he wouldn't have got this one. So he gets a little bit of something on the highlight reel. We get another drive. A lot of the things that we were talking about already occur here. It's the same usual suspects, a mix of Samuels. McFarland in year 2, I think, looks very improved. Steelers actually end up going up now, and a lot of runs on this play. Samuels, you had an incompletion with Haskins. You had a short pass to Samuels, who got 17 yards. McFarland got 11 on the ground, then he loses 3. Haskins finds Gentry for 7, Cody White for 6. They actually convert a third down there, and they get a couple of them. Samuels for 4 again, 5 again, 1 yard for the touchdown. So he ran 4 consecutive times. And some of this, I'm not going to say some of this is because, they don't want to risk it with Haskins. They want to see something specific, and I thought it was with Samuel. So you're working on specific things in these games while still in a game context. This is where you iron things out, right? Haskins did end up 16-22, 161 yards. He had the TD, didn't have the pick, so he had a 108.3 rating, whereas Dobbs had a ball thrown into, I don't know why he threw it where he threw it. His pick is only in completion 5 of 6, but only 30 yards. It's just not very impressive for a 47.9 rating. Most of the running backs, I don't have much to even say about at this point. Like you had said, Tony Brooks-James, that's not somebody that's on my radar. Pete Guerrero, I'm surprised he got as many carries as he did, 7 for 20. Receiving, Bussey was 445. Deontay Johnson with a number of nice plays. Cody White caught 5 balls for 39. Johnson had 2 for 38 and a touchdown. Juju with some catches in traffic, looking like his ever-fine self with his sure hands. My boy Kevin Rader, who I've been standing for over here, 2 of 16, and I think both of those weren't the easiest catches in the world, so I'm still over here. I'm beating the drum for my man. But Zach Gentry got 1 of his 2 targets for 7. You got a bunch of other guys who caught like a ball here or there, including Eric Ebron. On the defensive side, I don't know. We have a whole lot to cover there. This is where the game kind of devolves into, all right, this is my new sleeping pill. The Steelers still, they do score. Boswell was out there kicking, but Sam Sloman comes in. He knocks in a short little 22-yarder. The Steelers were there. They were knocking on the door. It was the Philadelphia 11. Brooks-James for 5, again for 2. Haskins incomplete to McCoy. That was the one he rolled out, and there was like 3 different guys he could have thrown to, and none of it. They were all covered. Yeah. You know, the best thing there is, again, I guess Ross Tucker was saying that the hidden yards, meaning any type of negative plays. Let's see. Dobbs was picked off. Then you go right back to the next series, and Mullins gets picked off again by Lafayette Pitts. We had mentioned that earlier. A lot of Pete Guerrero running around on the field. I hope I'm saying his name right. I'm not even sure his first name's Pete. He's been with the team for about a week. But they killed the clock. They killed the last 6 minutes, though.
Yep.
I thought that was fairly impressive, Brian. It sounds like I think we deflate some of the things that people get really hyped up in the preseason. I do have one that I want to pick out from the defense, though. I thought one that's been worth mentioning. I don't know that he stood out necessarily, but I think he's already been better than what we were kind of poking fun at this in the draft with. I'm talking about. Bobcat Goldthwait was whatever, Elliot Loudermilk.
Yes.
In Scrooged. Well, This is Isaiah Loudermilk. I'm seeing it. I see what they saw in him. Still 5th rounder, but I see it. I'm seeing some of it now. Versus Bugs and versus like Carlos Davis and some of these other men that are out there on the defensive line in the reserve roles. I'm seeing it at least, and I'm seeing it because he's wearing 92, so he's sticking out like a sore thumb too.
I definitely can see the push. I can see the effort. I'm seeing it as you would expect. I'm seeing it against the second team offensive line, which for the Eagles was not very good, even though a lot of those guys had starting experience. Because the Eagles started like 97 different versions of their offensive line last year. So a lot of these guys had starts under their belt, but they still were not tremendously good. But it is good to see, okay, maybe, and we say this every time when we go, I don't understand this move, but I'm not as smart as the Steelers guys, right? I'm not Kevin Colbert. I'm not getting paid $1 bazillion to make these decisions. If I was, then somebody would be really wasting their money because clearly I'm not that good at it. But we're not the ones being paid to do it. We can give our best estimates, and we didn't know. But we always caveat that by saying they must have seen something they liked. So now I would agree with that. We're starting to see maybe what they liked.
A rookie against JV team, the C team or whatever, the D team.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Fine, but the drips and drabs, I think, is promising. And the last 2 games, the camp session I got to see, maybe I'll get to see a little more. Bugsy was showing a little bit too, last night too. I'll say
he
that
had
much.
to. He was not. He did not make a great impression in the last game. So he kind of needed to have a better game this game.
Yeah, and I think Chris Wormley, in some limited time, he's definitely a guy that could step in there. I don't have any qualms over that. Trey Norwood's still really young. A lot of the other guys, we didn't get to see really much of like Alex Highsmith. You have the nickel corner kind of battle. Antoine Brooks didn't play. Arthur Mollett. It's hard with the vanilla defense to actually see who's supposed to be assigned to what, who's supposed to do what. So when you see somebody kind of like ball hawk or move to the play, doesn't necessarily mean that was their coverage. Somebody else might have blown something. So I try and take a lot of the defensive stuff with a major grain of salt. The most you could look at is maybe some of the push, some of the stuff that's going on up front. And I don't know, there wasn't a whole lot of that there here or there. Like Loudermilk got in there on the one. And I guess that's about it. I mean, what else are we going to like kind of nitpick on this game? For the most part, it really wasn't all that eventful, even though, you had some scoring on both sides of the ball and you had 24-16. It's hard to evaluate. You can't go through. The only big thing I think that sticks out when it comes to statistics, the Steelers had 28 first downs to the Eagles' 10. I mean, cumulative, even with cycling in like the equivalent of hockey, like you got your second, third, and fourth line out there. 41 minutes and 18 seconds of time of possession is just absolutely killer. That is just
that's 3/4 of the game.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a lot of freaking time of possession.
Yeah,
I'm encouraged to see that they do absolutely look like they are focused on bringing the run game to the fore. They're, the guys look like they're hungry to be run blockers. So we'll see. You never know, what is going to actually end up transpiring, but it certainly looks like this could be a much more well-balanced team. Maybe we will have a whole lot more to talk about after the next game, since as Tomlin said in his press conference when asked, are you planning on playing Ben next week? Yes, I am. Surprising apparently everybody in the room because they didn't expect that direct response. So maybe we get to see some Ben Roethlisberger next week. It sounds like we will, and have a much better and clearer sense of what at least we look like right now. Right, what that first team offense might start to really look like, to get
for
get
one
a sense
series.
of where this team's. Yeah, for one series. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, one series, maybe two at the most, and then they won't play again in the fourth game at all.
Yeah, it reminds me. Years ago, they played the same thing, the dress rehearsal game at New Orleans, and totally lit them up like for 2 series, and you had everybody, the whole complement out there with like AB and everybody else, and we're totally stoked to see it. And it was like that just kept you going all the way through, like the week 1 in the opening game. So, well, I think that does it for us, Brian. One little footnote as I was going through this was the reason I said this. Loudermilk had a number of tackles here toward the end of the game, and also combined with the sack with Quincy Roach. Your brother from another mother. Representing. Yeah.
The misspelled version of my name.
Yeah. I guess it still counts. There's a lot of people with different variations of mine, too, but none of them happen to be playing professional sports. Just Kyle Kuzma, who got shipped over from the Lakers, but now I got to get a new jersey for that, because I thought it was always cool just to have a player with like an actual jersey of it, somebody with your actual name. I mean, it's like my name's Smith or Johnson, you know what I mean? So I probably said that before. Sorry if I'm a broken record. Thank you, my friend, for joining me once again. We got to keep doing this. This feels good. This feels right.
Absolutely, it feels good. It feels right.
It feels.
If it ain't right. If this is wrong, I don't want to be right.
Absolutely. And I wasn't playing with the pen today, so if I annoyed anyone on the last show, it's over here somewhere, trust me. It's like I always find my kid has the little pop-it things, the fidget things, and I'm like, oh, these are stupid, until I have one in my hand, and then all of a sudden I find myself playing with it and don't even realize it. So it's like the fidget popper, don't look below the desk, and people, get your mind out the gutter. Anyway.
I was about to say, you just overshared.
I know you were going there.
You overshared the fidget spinner under the desk. Whoa.
That's not the fidget spinner that we're talking about here. And now the 2%ers went down to 1%.
That was graphic.
Well, folks, until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. My name is Joe. His name is Brian, and we encourage everyone, like we do each and every time out there, to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.